develop in our career, we tend to let go of certain things, and that is physical performance. But we got to continuously be an asset to our team and not a liability. And in order to do that with the things that we do, you have to maintain your physical fitness. So, leaders everywhere, especially if you're in a physical job or something that requires physical performance, set the standard for yourself as well. If not, have a higher standard for yourself because then you'll have a lot more buy-in from your team and it's a win-win situation because then you can retire healthy.
Welcome to the Captains and Coaches Podcast. We explore the art and science of leadership through the lens of athletics and beyond. I'm your host, Tex McQuilkin, and today is all about the real recovery. The sleep you're skipping, the mobility you're ignoring, the stress you're carrying into bed every night, and the slow breakdown happening underneath the surface of a career built on toughness. Today's guests are changing that conversation. Rebecca Rouse is a performance coach, public speaker, and co-founder of Machine Strength, a human performance company built specifically for tactical and first responder communities. Joel Del Rosario is a retired Marine and combat veteran who was hit by an IED in 2007 and spent the better part of a decade learning, often the hard way, that recovery isn't weakness, it's the mission. Together, they're bringing the conversation about physical wellness, sleep, mobility, stress management, and long-term longevity into rooms where it's rarely been welcome. We sit down in my home in Dripping Springs, fresh off Joel's first tactical game skirmish, and we got into all of it. The habits nobody builds until their body forces them to, the difference between sucking it up and breaking down, and why the best thing a leader can do for their team is to take care of themselves first. This is the recovery nobody's talking about. With that, let's hand it off to Rebecca and Joel to help us raise the game. Ready, and break. Action. Welcome to Dripping Springs, Texas. Thank you both, Rebecca and Joel, for coming out this way, sitting down with me for the podcast.
Thanks for having us.
What brings y'all to town?
Joel competed in his first ever tactical games skirmish this past weekend on Saturday
Awesome.
out in Burnett.
Burnett or Burnett?
Burnett, however you say it. I've heard Burnett.
Okay. I've also heard the opposite. What role did you play in support? Did you make sure his sleep was dialed in?
I wish, but we drove down from Dallas on Friday night. I was assisting at a kettlebell certification on Friday. We finished at about 5 p.m., left at grab some dinner, drove down at 6, got here at 9:30, and then we went to sleep and then had to get up at 5 a.m. So we didn't get enough sleep, but I made sure he had snacks and water, and I got to play the sport role, which is very nice. A very nice change for me. I'm usually the athlete, and he's the spectator and videographer, and I got to do the spectator videographer role this time.
Yeah, that's fun. Now you can see and you get the creative role where you can direct it a certain way because now you're behind the camera,
Yep.
and so creates a good feedback loop for when we switch roles next time to
Yep.
say, hey, this is the angle I'm looking for. Here's my creative direction.
Yep. Get my good side.
Get my good side. Is this your good side? Do we need to switch chairs?
We'll be all right.
Okay.
This is my bad side, but it's fine. I need to learn how to expand my horizons, so this
Perfect.
is a great opportunity to do that.
Yes. Well, Joel, walk us through the tactical games experience. I know it exists, but I don't know what's involved.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun first of all, and the experience. I've been following the tactical games and their progression for a while now on social media, and it always seemed interesting. For those of you who don't know what it is, it's essentially fitness and shooting. So like if you take CrossFit and then you take a shooting competition, and if those two things had a baby, that would be the tactical games.
Well, CrossFit tried to do that
Mm-hmm.
with shooting.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember how it worked out, but they didn't continue to do it, so not well.
Yeah, so I'm assuming I'm assuming it didn't go so well. I'm assuming they just let the tactical games do their thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I remember they did a softball toss one year, and it didn't make them look very athletic, so then they tossed it out.
No
Yeah.
pun intended.
Always.
Yeah.
Every pun is intended with me. All right. And so, yeah, so thank you to Andrew Mitchell for connecting us. And then we have a lot of other mutual friends to give shout outs to. So Matt Spade, and then the Hotbox Sauna
Yeah.
version 2,
Yep. OG.
the OG. So shout out Brady. Brady's the man. And Yes, hot box experience. I got to give him some love. So, what is your experience with sauna? Does this help you with recovery? Does it help you with sleep? What's
Yes, yes,
what's
and yes.
a 30-second pitch for Brady that we can do him a solid?
So sauna has been one of the most instrumental components to my evening routine, which we were just chatting about this morning about the evening routine as opposed to the morning routine. But having a solid evening routine leads to a solid night's sleep, which leads to maximizing the following day. And having the hot box at home is just so convenient because it's small size, small footprint. It plugs into your house power, heats up very quickly. You got the combination of the high heat of the traditional sauna plus the infrared bulbs, and it's just in my own little recovery cocoon, and I love it.
And it's very aesthetically pleasing.
Yes.
So, a dear friend of mine, he puts it in his office. So he's got his nice office set up, and it's this beautiful cedar, and
Yep.
it actually adds to the room versus
Yeah,
what
it's like
is
a beautiful piece of furniture.
obnoxious and taking away. Um, so definitely check that out. I'll put a link in the show notes. And there's so much that I do want to cover, and we have the opportunity to get coffee. And what I want to highlight and aim to recognize is behavior change. The challenge with behavior change, there's so much habits that is instilled and rooted in us that we have to really arm wrestle and take away. In our conversation this morning, it started with the presidential fitness test. Well, when we were growing up, all we knew was the value of fitness, the value of health. And we don't see that anymore. So, what anchors, what roots, what challenges do you start to see in the populations that you're working with that, hey, we learned this lesson in elementary school that maybe now these 20 somethings they did not get because they threw that out?
You want to take this one?
Sure, yeah. No, the really is the expectation management, right? So expectation management from the household, from the high schools, from everyone we see. The expectation is that when we were taking the presidential fitness assessment or the test, the idea was that there is a standard, and you either fall below that standard, you meet the standard, you're above the standard. When you have no standard, then you don't know what to aim for. And for the most part, people who don't have a standard to meet will just go to the path of least resistance.
Uh-huh.
And when it comes to fitness, health, longevity, we are going to take the path of least resistance unless we are educated on what the standard should be. And I think that's what anytime you have an assessment in the military, we have assessments. In the Marine Corps, we have assessments twice a year, and we have a standard. And how you perform in those tests twice a year, those assessments twice a year, will determine whether you're promotable or not, and will also determine whether you're ready for combat or not.
Uh-huh.
So there's a huge importance and a very critical thing that when we have a standard and we enforce that standard, that allows us to then see where we fall in ourselves, and then how we're doing for the future of ourselves or the future generations as well.
Uh-huh. And so now, Rebecca, question for you. With assessments and standards, guys, these are their entire career, they're told whether they're essentially good or bad. So now you get the opportunity to connect with them for only 2 hours and aim to reframe that. Well, we got to reset the standard. We got to create new assessments for you personally daily. What's your approach there to almost break 20 years of career that they were told one way to do things, and then you honestly believe for their wellness that there's an infinite way for you to do stuff?
Yeah, I think it's important to really meet people where they are and recognize that we're not going to undo 20 years or 10 years or 5 years of habits in a day or a week or a month. It has to be a journey, and it's a gradual progression. And I think that's the most important thing for sustainability, is making sure that it's gradual. Because if we try to overhaul everything overnight, it's very, very unlikely to last. And so painting a picture of what the habit change process looks like, presenting the information, and then the ball's in their court. So all we can do when we have such a short time with a group of people is, again, share that information, why it's important, not just give a bunch of science. Like, they're not going to really care that much about the science, but okay, what's in it for me? Why do I need to know this information? How can I implement it? And in a room full of first responders, the events we tend to present at, mostly so far at least, has been, we got people at the beginning of their career, we got people somewhere in the middle, and then we got people towards the end of the career. And I think the biggest potential for impact long term is getting people in there earlier on in their career, before they have those habits already ingrained in, and before they're so ingrained in the culture of the first responder world, and the things that stack up over time. So presenting our own personal stories, but then also presenting stories of some of the veterans that I've worked with. And when I'm working with veterans who've already gotten out, they're done with their time in service, and the things that they, if I knew then what I know now, I wish I had done these things earlier. I wish I had prioritized these things earlier, and kind of walk down what that path looks like if you do prioritize these things versus if you don't, and have them put themselves in their own future self's shoes. What do you want your life to be like? Okay, now let's backtrack. Wherever you are right now, it's the daily things, the daily habits, the daily investments that we make into our own bank account of wellness and health and longevity. That's what's going to paint the picture. I think people think it's like this big thing. It's really the small things that we do repeatedly.
Yeah, yeah, I like that. And how does machine strength address specific wear, tear caused by different things that military's strapped up with? I mean, it changes per military population. What are some of the things that you introduce as wear and tear? If you feel this, then hey, we can do this.
Mobility is a big one. It's probably it's the thing that everyone knows they need to do, but just don't do it. And whether it's because time, when they have limited time, some don't get to work out on duty, some do get to work out on duty. And regardless, it's usually that thing where when you're short on time, that's the thing that just gets lopped off the workout. And I'm not going to warm up today. I don't have time. I'm not going to do it. I'll do it later. And then it just never happens. And it gets pushed and pushed and pushed. And so I think mobility is one of the, and it doesn't require much. You don't need any equipment. You just need your body and 10, 15 minutes consistently to make a really significant change. And so I introduce them. I don't just talk about it. I actually, regardless of what the environment is, I get them up and moving. Even if they're in rows with chairs and tables and there's not a lot of space, you can still do mobility. If you have lots of space and plenty of ability to move around, even better. And so I've done some workshops where we can actually do a full mobility session. But even if we just spend 10 minutes on it, we can feel what it feels like to move joints through range of motion and compare before and after. And that's really powerful, especially if people have never done that before. So mobility is a big one that we talk about. And then just some of the other low-hanging fruit: hydration, nutrition, just basic changes that they can make to feel better in their bodies.
Yeah.
Sleep, of course, is probably arguably the biggest one. We can't do hands-on in the for sleep in the sessions, but we can certainly talk about it.
That's the future.
Yeah.
Yeah, I highly value the warm-up. Where I view warm-up for athletic performance is the one consistent thing you have every single day, whether we're going to practice, whether they're doing training, or they're doing games. So that's the one thing we can control.
Yep.
And then aiming to gradually over a season have a athletic development model.
Yep.
The beauty is guys can hit reset if they're in a professional environment. They can just do the different things. What I aim to tackle is there's no one magic warm-up, because then we hit the law of accommodation and then no longer starts warming us up. So aim to chase behaviors with it, chase the habit of I'm committing 10 minutes,
Yep.
but we're going to mix it up so it is fun and creative.
Yep.
And that way it doesn't get boring. So building that buy-in, and it continues to build our mobility. I call them, usually people have their own preconceived definition of warm-up, so I call them mess-ups. Mobility, elasticity, and stability. So we're going to mess up. So if I get a new person, I just throw every preconceived definition they got out and just help redefine it for them.
That's all. I love
And
that. That's great.
so what I wanted to highlight as well is we have unique representation here. We have service member and spouse support on the other side. And you get the opportunity to be very in-depth on your knowledge of human performance, and then you get to apply all those tools for your personal well-being and career, in your athletic career as well. So how does being on both sides help you both as educator and facilitator to understand that depth, that dynamic, and full well-rounded versus just a facilitator that's going into these environments that doesn't have a representation in there? There's a lot of, hey, you should do this, but you know the reality of the job.
Yeah.
You can start.
I I think it's valuable to have both perspectives and both sides of the coin. I think, and I've talked to other presenters who are civilians who present to tactical, and it can sometimes you kind of get both extremes. You get people who are like, because you're a doctor, because you're a coach, whatever, I'm going to listen to you. I don't want to hear from my colleague who's in uniform because I see that guy every day. And then there's the opposite where like, you don't know what I've lived, so I'm not going to listen to you, where I am going to listen to the expert who has worn the uniform. And so I think together, when we have the opportunity to present together, we have both. And so, and sometimes you just need to hear, it's the same message, but you, depending on how you hear it, who you hear it from, how it's delivered, it could be the same information, but it's going to resonate with some people differently. And so having both of our perspectives on stage or in the room together, I think is really impactful. And like you said, we both bring a unique life experience to the table. I'm an athlete, I'm a coach, I'm a military spouse, and now I specialize in the tactical population. And he has worn the uniform, still wears the uniform, and has that perspective.
Guys.
Hi. So it's like a 1-2 punch, and we both have our own unique experiences. I'll never pretend to know what it's like to walk in their shoes because I haven't, but I'm married to someone who has, and I've seen it firsthand. I have that passenger seat view of what they put their bodies through and what it's like to be able to support, and then also bring the knowledge that I have from my textbook knowledge plus my hands-on experience of working with those people.
Time out. Observation. New coaches getting into the field are really smart and intelligent when it comes to programming or understanding practice plans and their sport, and really bad at people. They have high IQ and low EQ. I spent the past 14 years traveling the world teaching people how to teach people, lifting weights, understanding sport, but most importantly, connecting with people. I've taken all those lessons from all over the world and put them into a new course, Why They're Not Listening, Coaching Today's Athlete. If you want the first lesson free, head to the website listen.captainsandcoaches.com to learn more. And now, back to the show. Ready, and break.
I like to use the analogy of engineers trying to develop a solution to something, or scientists developing a solution to something, and they're trying to figure it out, and they can't. And then someone walks in, the janitor walks in. It's like, what happens if you flip that upside down? And all of a sudden, that's the fix, right? So having an environment where everybody thinks the same is not necessarily the best environment to progress, right? So sure, you have the experience, the life experience of it, but if you have someone from the outside, a third party, look inside and see what's going on, and maybe they have that solution. So when you have someone who hasn't worn the uniform, it's like, well, it's a simple fix. Like, if you do this, this will definitely help you. And having someone like her teach me things that we didn't learn in the Marine Corps at the time was able, that allowed me to live or be able to stay in service for much longer.
Yeah.
Because I was hit by an IED in 2007. An IED is an improvised explosive device, for those people who don't know. And the vehicle was completely destroyed. Luckily, I was in the vehicle when it hit, but my body was pretty beat up. And if I hadn't met her when I did in 2010, I would not be retiring from the Marine Corps. I would be, after 20 years, I'd be medically retired probably 5 years ago, 10 years ago, potentially. And so the importance of understanding, having someone explain to you in a different way and teach you in a way that is a little more outside the box thinking, or maybe from a different mindset, absolutely helps. So I would encourage anybody who is learning from someone who is not in their line of work, hey, have an open mind. You never know what you can learn from that person, even if they're, if they've never worn the uniform, or if they've never played the sport, or whatever the case may be. I mean, a lot of times the coach tells you what you need to do, and even if the coach can't do what you can do.
Yeah.
And then a lot, even within sport coach, a lot of militaries, they tell you what to do, but not necessarily how to think. And then when that moment happened, you almost had to learn to think for yourself and make your personal decisions, because it's your livelihood here. So was there a moment of growth that you recall in that, where, okay, well, this got real versus being asked to do X, Y, Z all the time?
You mean from her or just in general?
Well, that was going to
Yeah.
be my follow-up,
Yeah.
and I can ask both now,
Mm-hmm.
because I mean that's the power of a good relationship. You were willing to listen. Was there a point where you had to learn to listen, or were you always willing?
Yeah. There was definitely a point that I had to learn to listen, mainly because I'm stubborn. And most military members are going to be stubborn, especially the ones that last long enough in the military. They're going to be stubborn. It's like, I can do this. I don't need sleep. I don't need that much water. I don't need, that much rest. I can do it. I can push through. But there was a point in my life where my body was starting to break down, and I realized I really need to prioritize the things that are going to help me live longer and perform better for a longer period of time. And if I wanted to retire and enjoy my retirement and not be broken down during my retirement, then I have to pay attention to those things too. So when that started happening, I started implementing the small things like you talked about, adding a little extra sleep, um, doing some stretch management, and just being a little more intentional about the things that I do. Adding mobility, that was a big one. Military members, first responders, we wear boots and we wear all this gear all the time. Our mobility sucks. But adding that mobility to increase the range of motion in my body, increase power production, but also to feel better and have a better mindset during the day, that was enormous. And if I could tell anybody to where to start with mobility. And once you start adding, because that is a low barrier to entry, and once you add those things and you feel better, then you're like, well, what else can I do to make me feel better? And then on top of that, I track everything. So we track with the Whoop, and we track everything to see what works and what doesn't work.
Nice. Well then, question for Rebecca: what were the first mobility exercises? How many did you try until finally it clicked for them? Was it the couch stretch?
I don't even remember. I mean, this is going back. I do remember when we first met, and we met at the gym, which no one's ever surprised about. But I don't think you did any. I mean, it's the classic. I'm gonna just before I bench, I'm just gonna do a barbell, grab some 5-pound plates, do some arm circles, do some whatever, and then bar, and then 135 and go. And I think that's probably what you were doing.
Oh, you started with the bar. Wow.
Or maybe not even the bar. Maybe we just go 135. Forget the bar. I don't know. But gosh, I don't know that I knew that much about. I mean, I didn't become a trainer till after college, so I didn't really get into this. I was always an athlete since I was a kid, but I think once I learned the thing that sticks out to me the most from my early personal training career was learning the joint by joint theory,
Okay.
like Boyle's like mobile stable and all that, and just it made so much sense to me. And I still utilize that with first responders because everyone thinks that the ankle is, or the first responders I work with are like, oh, the ankles is supposed to be stable. I'm like, well, no, your ankles don't move because you shove them in boots all day. And so, yes, we need some stability, but the ankle is a pretty mobile joint. We can move it around 3 planes of motion. And so, and then working the way up the body, and that going through the mobile stable helps people realize oftentimes why their body moves or doesn't move the way that it does or doesn't. And so if you put a duty belt on around your hips and then you sit all day and then you wonder why your knees and back hurt. Well, maybe, I mean, then you have boots on top of that, and then you have your vest on top of that, and then your T-spine's like this, and then your center console's over here, and we wonder why rotating this way is really hard and why I can't move my arms over my head. Like it all fits together. It makes so much sense to me.
Yeah.
And so that's usually where I start when I work with the tactical population is just understanding like how the joints are supposed to move, where to focus our efforts when time is limited on our mobility training. How can we get the most bang for our buck based on the things we repeatedly do? And so I think that's probably early on, like that was 2014 when I first became a personal trainer and started to learn all that. And I shared it all with him as I was learning it. Like, oh my God, guess what I learned today? And then he started implementing it because it applied to him.
Yeah. That enthusiasm, that's what I love. So I think it's a very important transition for coach's career to jump from coach to educator. Because then it's just like, and I get seniors in high school to teach freshmen because then they really start to learn and understand it. and they can see how difficult teaching is. That's an aside. But then you really have to understand this in-depth, paint the picture, and then coaching versus teaching. Teaching, I understand everything from XYZ, and then I can apply it. Where in coaching is I can get you set up, get you to execute, and then I fix one thing. Teaching, I have to understand everything that could go wrong, like the joint by joint approach. Where in coaching, I can just see one thing and give you one tip. So this evolution where you need to build your own personal breadth of knowledge to then educate. So that was an important piece. We also talked a little bit about your career where you went from trainer, now everybody's on the same level with your peers, to now manager leader within that department. So now we're paired with military, which is all about leadership growth, and then climbing the chain, the corporate chain. I don't know how to phrase it in military speak.
Chain of
The
command,
ranks.
Yeah, the
That's
ranks.
it. So now, speak to us about that jump from trainer to now manager and educator, and it's effectively a leader of people that you used to be chums with.
Yeah, that was challenging, especially because I was one of the youngest on the team. So I went from being a fairly new trainer, and then I guess my managers identified in me potential and a desire to continue to grow and develop as a leader. And so I moved into the manager and training program, and that was kind of like that transition period. Like, I'm not a manager yet. I'm still one of the staff, and then eventually became a manager. And so I think that I've always held a high standard for myself in all the things that I do, and followed all the rules and done everything according to the book, which I think has pros and cons, because there are places and times when it's appropriate to not necessarily follow the rule book, because you have a person in front of you. We're not just we don't have this perfect structure all the time, and each circumstance is unique, and we have to listen.
Yeah.
And so being willing to think outside the box, being willing to hear people, meet them where they are, and it was just such a big learning curve for me. But I also, shortly after I became a manager, had the opportunity I moved to a different location and opened up a brand new club. So I had a huge experience, a huge opportunity to go through the entire process of identifying talent, doing the interviews, hiring a team, building a team, creating a team culture from scratch at this brand new club in a brand new market. We were the first club in San Diego, and getting to build that from the ground up, and then open the club together, like, truly was one of the most incredible learning experiences I've ever had.
I believe it.
Yeah.
So within stepping into that, were you trading physical knowledge of the body for now leadership knowledge from Joel?
Absolutely. There was a lot of firsts for me, because I'm 5.5 years younger than he is. So, and having not served in the military, not deployed, like he had at the time, and has a lot more life experience and just like unique things that I never had. And so I leaned on him a lot for the leadership moments when I was like, I'm in this situation. What do I do? Can we walk through this, talk through this together? And he definitely helped me a lot as I came into that new role as manager, leader, all of that. So
Yeah.
it was definitely a give and take relationship there.
Yeah. Well, how was that teaching moment for you, Joel?
It was refreshing to know that she had an open mind to listen and to ask the question, because that is the toughest one, is when you don't know and you have to ask. Some of us have so much pride that we don't even ask, because we're like, I'll figure it out, and then you make a mistake and you're like, damn, I should have asked. And so asking the question, I don't have all the answers, but getting perspectives on what different things you can do, that is a true humble leader. Knowing what you don't know. Like, and when you don't know something, trying to find out what the right answer is. And also, I think one of the biggest parts of one of the biggest conversations that we had was, how do you go from being a peer to being their leader, and what you have to do in the military is very black and white. And you pick up rank. All right, now I'm your senior, and then as you pick up rank, as you continue in your progression in your career in the military, you have your subordinates, you have your leaders, and you have your peers, right? And they have the same rank. And not only understanding how to lead people who were once your peers, but also I think even the toughest part is learning how to lead your peers,
Yeah.
right? Because sometimes your peers are the problem,
Uh-huh.
and you have to be very tactful in doing that. Leading up is to your leaders. It's tricky depending on the industry. In the military, it's very tricky. In the civilian sector or in the thing when you're outside of the military structure, I think it's a little more accepted.
Mm-hmm.
In the military, it's just you have to, if you have a humble leader that is willing to listen, then it's easier than it is if you have someone who you know is stubborn.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the same with sports. There was a book I read years ago when I was a team captain athlete. It was 360-Degree Leadership by John C. Maxwell. And there was not a lot of athlete specific leadership tools. So I was just reading business books to try to learn these lessons and then bring them to 18 to 22-year-olds who are also stubborn and they don't know what they don't know. So that was an interesting challenge, but that just visual of 360 degrees. I got to lead up, I got to lead side to side with my peers, and then I got to lead down to my teammates, but still subordinates. I don't know what you call them in the military, but so that I mean that was so much growth, and then it's an opportunity to fail because it doesn't matter, and they're also forgiving because they're friends, and it's all growth. The challenge is when now careers are on the line with that. That's why I value the opportunity to lead at the sports level so much, is because we can make mistakes, but we're still pals. Now, my upward growth is not affected by that. They're going to be forgiving, and we're still going to be in each other's weddings. Time out. I get 2.5. This one's all about training. I'm talking about my Old Bull strength and conditioning program that I have available on Train Heroic. This is Training with Wisdom. It's the program that I am following. I understand who you are. You don't have a lot of time. You're a busy leader and you're beat up from years of athletics, years of training. Here in this program, we target hips, ankles, knee, back health with the barbell. We have fun variations of the squat in the programs, sexy Fridays, bodybuilding. It is an amazing time. It'll keep you engaged, it'll keep you involved, and keep you on a wise program that keeps you coming back for more instead of digging you a hole you can't come out of that affects life outside of training. Come check us out for a 7-day free trial in the Old Bull program. A link in the show notes, or if you're watching on YouTube, just click right here. All right, and now back to the show. Ready, and break. So we talked about the challenges of that fear, that weight of upward growth. And I want to speak to it because that could keep some people silent sometimes. So now with Joel, with your experience, and I mean, you had to recover from an injury, and did you think about 20 years after service career back then, or did it take the injury for you to realize the importance of, I got to take care of my body now, so one, I can continue to serve, and two, I'm there for my family?
Yeah, good question. Short answer is I didn't think ahead far enough when I was younger. And I don't think most of us do. And when we're younger, when we're in our 20s, even like in our teens and 20s, right? We get hurt, something happens, we bounce back pretty quickly. And we don't have to worry too much about, whether or not we're going to be able to do that thing that we love doing again because we know we can recover. When those pains, aches, and injuries start to rear their ugly head again when you're in your mid 30s and then when you get to your 40s, then you really start thinking, it's like, man, I should have done these things and I should have taken care of myself, because now you start thinking about the long game. And I think that's something that leaders, including parents, because parents are leaders. I don't want to keep parents out of these conversations. Parents are the first line defense leaders in the beginning. Society has a role, but parents are the leaders. And if you start teaching your kids the long game, whether it's with investing, and I like to use the word investing, not just in investing money to gain wealth, but investing in your health and longevity and education to understand how to use your tools in everything you do. That's going to help you be a person who's a long range thinker, who's thinking about what happens when I'm 50. So it doesn't have to take an injury, but most often it takes a catastrophe or something that happens in life for us to start thinking about the future. And if we can shift our mindset and be more proactive about, hey, someday you're going to be 40, 50. What are you doing now for that time? And, we parents say it every now and then in passing, and make sure you save money, make sure you invest. But like, we don't teach them how. We don't teach them what to do.
Yeah. So
And I learned that a lot of the stuff from her. And when it came to health, and then when it came to money, when it came to other things in life, I taught her some things like that as well. So it's a give and take.
yeah, yeah, I like that. A line I've been using, Pearl Girl.
You want to straighten that out, Rebecca? Yeah, there you go. There you go.
Leadership is messy.
Yeah.
Quote Brett Bartholomew there. So is podcasting. A line I use a lot is coaches are the last line of defense. Because, like I mentioned, it's an opportunity for me to fail as a leader with some in an environment where my guys are forgiving. Coaches, in that same sense, like we can make mistakes and it's not going to cost us our job. It's not going to cost us a grade in college. It's going to affect my ability to get into law school. So now, coaches, we can be forgiving and teach the lesson. And I feel parents should be that all the time. So I'm going to steal that line. Parents are the first line of defense.
First line of defense.
Coaches are that last line, in my humble opinion. Within that, what guidance would you give to younger servicemen that still have that bravado, still have that guard and shield up, not willing to ask anybody for help because they'll figure it out? Or there's also the fear it may affect their ability to rise in the ranks.
Yeah. We all have it. We all have the fear that if we are injured, there's always a next opportunity, right? For everything we do, there's another opportunity, especially in the first responder military community. There's always the next rank, always the next duty station, and always the next deployment, which everybody wants. And if you're not healthy, if you're injured, then you're less likely to get to that point, right? There is a time, and I used the words "suck it up." You used a different word. What was it that you used instead
I
of?
forget what it is. It's all instinctual.
Build it up, build yourself up, or rise
Yeah,
up.
yeah, rise up. Yeah, suck it up. But there's a time. There's a
Did I
time.
say
Yeah, you said that. Yeah, it sounded really good when you said it. There's a time to put yourself second and put the mission first. But as an individual, you have to kind of understand when it's time for self-care to again play that long game. And then I'll go and put the responsibility again on the leader to realize when it's a good time to tell your team, take care of yourself because I'm going to need you during this other time. We don't know when, we don't know what's going to happen. So I'm going to need you to be ready when the time comes. And if we are continuously putting our health in the back seat and we're not recovering at night, we're not sleeping enough, and then every day that we are not recovered, we are starting the day less recovered than the previous day. Eventually, that lack of recovery is going to become an injury, and sometimes becomes an injury that is maybe not even fixable. Unless you take care of yourself in the beginning and you're able to recover properly not every single day because that's not possible, but when you can.
Yeah.
So it's not necessarily a balance, it's more like a synergy.
Yeah.
And so understanding when to do what.
Yeah. And I mean, that's motivation, that's inspiration, that's daily. I can get you and build you up for this moment and this time. I need you now. But at the same time, we're thinking about being that long range thinker. In my mind, sports, this is, hey, practice. We're taking our sweet time. We're learning our behaviors. We're learning skill development. But to come game time, it's intensity. We're going to need you now. This moment. This is your time, to quote Herb Brooks in The Miracle. So,
And it's a buy-in for the leader as well. Like, because that way you know that your team is, or the people who you are leading, you're taking care of them. Because the mission is gonna come. And you're gonna need your team. And how likely are you to succeed if your team is at half capacity versus full capacity?
yes. And speaking of teams, this question for Rebecca. This is what we call a transition in the business. You recently rebranded to Machine Strength and had a merger creating a new team. Who's it with? Introduce him, and then what is your mission now? And how has it evolved from previously?
When COVID hit in 2020, I was out of work. Needed to figure out how I was going to continue to advance my career, my professional development, make income. And so that's when we started our business, which was called Semper Stronger. It was the two of us, and we did everything, every day, everything, all tasks, all the hats.
I get
It, many of us do. And it was an incredible learning experience. And him still being active duty, he contributed as much as he could when he could, and it was my full-time thing. So we each had our roles. Thankfully, we have very complementary skill sets, and we were able to get everything done. But there's really a ceiling that the capacity that you can do when it's just two people in solopreneurship versus entrepreneurship. And so I think for where we were in our life and him still being in the military, we took the business to where we could take it, being just the two of us. And at some point, we needed to start building a team in order to grow. And so we did that still while we were Super Stronger. I had somebody come on board with us. Somebody actually had worked with at Equinox before, and she helped us build a team. Hello.
Time out. Text here at Train Heroic headquarters, meeting with the team to talk about the coaching experience that I'm able to provide for my athletes. So if you're a coach and want to put your program out there on an app that athletes actually enjoy using, Train Heroic's for you. I've been using it since 2014, delivering literally over tens of thousands of workouts to athletes, and the Train Heroic allows me to provide the unique coaching experience that I want to. Uploading video, providing coaching feedback, directions, and building a community. That's why I love Train Heroic. And if you want to take your athletes where they can't take themselves, that they want to go, head to trainheroic.com/captains and check out how you can deliver programming to them. And now back to the show. Ready, and rip.
So we started to build a team. We hired a couple of other coaches and coaches from different specialties than what I have, so that we could start to help more people. And that took us up until 2023-ish, and that's when I started getting into public speaking. And my colleague's speaking mentor is Nick Lavery. He is an active duty Green Beret. He's the first special operator to return to combat as an above-the-knee amputee. He's got an incredible story, and he was about a year or two ahead of me in the public speaking world, and he was kind of the person that got me even to put that on my radar of making an impact speaking in front of audiences. And at that time, I was kind of like starting to grow my social media following, but I didn't really just want to live on the internet and make impact online. It was great for post-COVID because during COVID because everybody moved online, and it gave us the opportunity to not be confined by the four walls of a gym when gyms were closed. And I love that. That's kind of how I started, but it was not where I saw myself going in the future. And I started to realize that there's a lot of impact that could be had in person. And the power of proximity is very real. And so I started to work on my public speaking abilities, which I had none. Started to go to public speaking courses, joined Toastmasters, and then Nick was kind of mentoring me along the way. He had his own business, still has his own business, and he shared with me he's a big visionary guy, long-term thinker. I'm much more of the day-to-day tactical stuff. He's very much the strategic kind of thinker. And he shared with me what his vision was for the 5 to 10 year roadmap of where he saw himself taking his business. And fitness is a big part of his life. Obviously, he had to do a tremendous amount of work on the physical side to be able to return to a team and get back on deployment status as a special operator Green Beret. And so based on what he shared with me, it became clear that eventually we would likely become competitors. And we had already done a lot of work together. He was mentoring me on public speaking. He had given me quite a few opportunities to be able to get in front of audiences. It really helped me advance in the tactical world because he has so many. That's the world he lives in. That's the world he lives in, and I wanted to start getting into more. And so we just had a few conversations, and we decided to just join forces instead of us continuing to build and do all the things that we needed to do, or we knew we would have to do eventually to grow to the next level. He already kind of had those things in place in his mind or in real life. And so we decided to just join forces and grow together. And so we rebranded Semper Stronger to Machine Strength. His brand was Team Machine. And so we're Machine Strength, and now we're in the process of building out more division. So we're machine readiness, which is kind of the whole person approach to physical, mental wellness, and performance. And so machine strength is one of several divisions within that umbrella. So we're building out the functional medicine, which is machine vitality and machine mentality for mindset. And then we're going to have a couple other divisions coming online in the next couple of years as well.
I love it.
Nutrition and sleep and recovery and all the things that make people perform at their highest level, whatever that means, and whatever industry, whatever field.
Yeah, and it's all connected, so that it opens the door for not just military
Yes.
people that aim and want to live that lifestyle, and they need that those behaviors to chase.
Yep.
Uh,
Because
I
the
love it.
concepts are similar. I mean, the concepts are the same.
Uh-huh.
The way that we apply them is going to differ based on the population we're talking to. But everybody needs to prioritize movement, nutrition, stress management, sleep. That's across the board. It's just the nuances of how we implement those things and how we coach them is going to differ based on who we're talking to.
Uh-huh. And you've coached a lot of military people where they become perfectionists because of their work environment. So they have to do this perfect or else. What's your mindset now that you can lose a couple hours of sleep because of another opportunity, or I'm going to go to a wedding, I'm going to eat wedding cake, so I'm not weird.
Yeah.
Like, it's okay.
Yeah.
How do you communicate it's okay to a lot of perfectionists that could fall into the all or nothing trap where, like, I had that one piece of cake, I'm gonna eat like crap the rest of the week.
Yep. I think, to your point, there's kind of, it's the all or nothing. There's really two extremes. I find with the tactical population, it's people who just, they don't care about any of it. They're just like, I'm here to collect a paycheck. And unfortunately, there are people that are that way. They're not thinking about their health as an investment in themselves, their family members, their team, the people that depend on them, their communities, the people that they serve. But then for those who are on the other end of the spectrum where they are the perfectionist types, and I very much relate to those people because that is my nature. I've had to work through a lot of that myself. And so I can speak to a lot of my own personal experiences. And I think people who know me or see me on social media or whatever, they assume that I am like perfect all the time with you must only eat like tilapia and chicken breast and broccoli and that's it. And like, no, I eat chocolate. I'm going to eat the wedding cake. And I've learned that over time. It doesn't have to be 100. Nothing's 100%. No one's going to get it right all of the time, but it's about making better choices more of the time for both our physical health and our mental health.
Mm-hmm.
That's usually the long-term success plan, is not getting it right 100% of the time, not even striving for 100%, because when we don't get it, then what? But can we get 85%, 90%? Can we just focus on making better choices more of the time and look at it as a big picture? It's today, if today doesn't go great, or this meal isn't perfect or what we want it to be, let's just put that in the past and move forward. We don't have to throw away the whole day, but just move forward. And if you miss a workout, it's not the end of the world, but don't throw away the entire week or the month. Like, we got to December and we're in December now. A lot of people are like, oh, well, it's December 8th, so I'll start in January. Like,
Right.
How many people are that way? But that's a long time. We still have 23 more days of December.
You're not wrong.
And so looking at it as, the micro goals, the breaking it into smaller chunks and doing the best that we can with what we've got.
Yeah. And then for some applicable tools, we mentioned sleep routine when we're drinking a lot of caffeine this morning. What's a sleep routine? What would you recommend to starting point? And you're just meeting people, you get 2 hours with them, you don't know their whole caffeine sensitivity.
Yep.
What would be a good guideline to help them start a sleep routine to see if they need to adjust to certain things?
For caffeine specifically, I always educate on the half-life of caffeine and recognizing that there are individual levels of sensitivity to caffeine, but for most people, keeping the cutoff of caffeine 8 to 10 hours before bed, which most people don't want to hear. But the reality is, if you start sleeping better through all the other things we can do to make that happen, you may not rely on that 4 o'clock energy drink anymore, because you don't need the nap, you don't need the energy drink, because you're sleeping better at night. And when you sleep better at night and you do that consistently, you have better energy throughout the day. And we don't rely on that afternoon pick-me-up to get through the day and then wreck our sleep and then fall into that vicious cycle. So caffeine is a big one. I think stress management, which oftentimes with the population we work with is much easier said than done, because they see stressful things all day long when they're on shift.
Mm-hmm.
But having tools and resources at the ready to mitigate the impact of that stress. So we're not living in redlining our cortisol 24/7, 365. Being able to use our breath to bring us back to homeostasis as quickly as possible after something that stressful occurs. And because the stress that we carry with us through the day is going to go to bed with us at night. And I think a lot of people don't realize that. And so if you're stressed out all day long, your cortisol rhythm is completely off because of the things that you see and do, and you don't know how to get back to homeostasis, you can't expect to shut the light off and all of a sudden it all goes away.
Yeah.
We ruminate on these things. They affect our physiology. They affect our sleep. They affect our cortisol. And so having the ability to manage our stress effectively, implementing a wind down routine so we have that time between the workday and the bedtime to decompress a little bit and not continue to stimulate ourselves through social media scrolling, through TV shows or whatever it may be, but doing something that's a little bit more down regulating to our nervous system and helps us facilitate that transition to sleep a little bit better. Having the right sleep conditions while we're sleeping, keeping the room dark, keeping the room cool, not having interruptions when possible from phones, from
Dogs.
kids, from pets, from whatever. Just keeping keeping that environment in the bedroom appropriate for sleep, and only doing sleep and sex. I always say sleep and sex should be the only things that we're doing in bed, because our brain creates associations. Whether you realize it or not, if we're scrolling social media, if we're reading the news, if we're talking about finances or anything else while we're in bed, our brain now associates that environment with stress. And even in the absence of the stimulus, there's a subconscious association. So when you get in bed, if you argue with your spouse, if whatever, you're doing anything else other than sleep and sex in your bed, your brain will start to associate those stressful things with that environment and will make it harder to sleep, even when the stressor's not there.
Yeah, an old Rob Wolf joke I heard at a presentation. There's two things you should be doing in the bedroom, and the other one's sleep.
Yes, there you go.
For Joel and Rebecca, you mentioned homeostasis, and here's the challenge that I want to pose to military vet here. How do you find what homeostasis is? Because we're always on. We always got someone just jumping all over us. We're always caffeinated. We're always doing this. We're always this. There's always this stress, so on and so forth. How do we know what level is from this perspective? Because we don't want level to be at full throttle all the time.
There's going to be a time when you're going to be up here all the time. When you deploy and you're constantly getting, into things, whether it's you're getting with the enemy, you're engaging the enemy, whether you're surrounded by stressful situations, whether it's noise, chaos, whatever it is, there's going to be a time when you have to perform for that long period of time at a stressful level. Understanding how to, like Rebecca said, how to bring your nervous system back down so that you can perform even when you're stressed, and then when you get when you get out of that stressful situation, and you can get your heart rate back down at a normal level, your nervous system back down to a normal level, to a homeostasis, is extremely important. So understanding how to breathe properly, understanding that there is a time to, like I said before, self-care, to be able to call home and say, I just want to talk, when you can, right? Or when it's a time to sleep. When the social aspect, surrounding yourself with people who are not going to make life stressful for you when it's already chaos. And we all know who those people are. Sometimes those people are family. Sometimes those people are family members that are just negative all the time, that create chaos, and making sure that your environment is setting you up for success. And we're not just, like I just said right now, we're not just talking about things, we're talking about people. And sometimes it is addressing that situation with those people, saying, it's like, hey, you are not helping the situation. And doing it enough times where that person then can be an asset to your life, not a liability. And so, apart from all the things that Rebecca said, I would say that your social circle, the people who are around you, are either going to make you better or they're going to make you sink. And it really is a decision on the individual, because you don't have to surround yourself with those people, or even if you do, you don't have to engage at the at any capacity other than what's necessary.
So now that's the challenge, changing your social circle and creating boundaries there. I spend a lot of time speaking on boundaries on the podcast is important for both a sport coach and a team leader to protect themselves from nasty coaches. So then the two boundaries, guidelines I give that are essential, and then you can get specific for your team, are moral boundaries and then essentially physical, mental, and emotional. So if any one of those bottom three are compromised, that's not a safe environment for you as a leader, or two, if the parents are attacking you, or unruly fans, or if you're a student athlete. Like if your coach is doing that stuff, transfer portal. Goodbye. So now, as a professional, I can create my own social circle. I have more control than an athlete. What would your guidance to be to put yourself in an environment to create for yourself that where it's better and prevent the sink?
Yeah, you have to set the example for yourself, and also be vocal and visually obvious about what's important to you. If if it is important to you, and it should be, if you're an athlete, if you're a military member or a first responder, like, performance should be important to you. Longevity should be important to you. Leadership should be important to you. All those things, and if they're not, then maybe you're in the wrong profession. Maybe you're doing the wrong thing, right? And so being extremely obvious about it, and eventually the people around you are either you're going to help them rise and be at your standard, or they'll eventually fizzle out and find a different group, right? But I'm not saying that everyone is going to be in your group, or not, everyone's going to be at your level. You may be the example that you're setting, but set your own example first, and then reach up instead of reaching down. So if you see someone, a coach, an individual, a team member, another person that is doing something the way that you want to do it, performing a certain way, then reach up and do the things that they're doing right, and aim to be in their circle.
Man, I love that. So on Friday I did a podcast with the Holy Cross head coach for lacrosse team. He's an ex-Marine, played lacrosse in Navy, and a big takeaway from that episode was he's like, I don't want my guys to be the example. I want my guys to set the example. Because if you're leading by example, it means nobody's following you, because you're just doing everything that you think should be done, and then you're doing it alone. So that was a big takeaway from him. And then we were making fun of the Army fitness test. All they got to do to fix it.
Just keep the standard. Have a standard. If it's hard, so what? If people are failing it, so what?
Yeah.
Leave the standard. People will eventually meet the standard, because if there's no other option than to get stronger, you're going to get stronger.
Yeah. So put pull-ups in.
Yes.
That's all we're saying.
Army, put pull-ups in your fitness test.
Yes. Alex Morrow, I did a podcast with him at the NSCA Tactical Conference, and I think represents, what's he call it? Knee tuck nation. He wants the knee tuck in. He went to West Point and still active duty. He wants it in there because it is hard.
Yeah.
So he jokes and calls it Knee Tuck Nation. Great name. Cool. Well, I want to wind it down. Where can both of you, or where can people go to learn from both of you and reach up in case they need some guidance, some mentorship, or really need you at a moment in time that is sometimes apparent with this population?
We are both on social media, most active on Instagram. We have our personal pages plus our business page. I'm at rebecca.rouse.
And I'm at Joler Blades. Yeah, I know.
Right.
It's my brother-in-law. He used to call me Joler Skates, and this is before I was even on Instagram. And so I when I first got on Instagram, I was, you know what, I'll try Joler Skates, see if it's there. It was taken.
What?
Yep. So I tried Joler Coaster. That one was taken. Yeah. And then I guess we're doing Joler Blades. And to be completely honest, I don't do anything with wheels on my feet. So I don't I don't roller skate. I don't rollerblade. I don't do any of those things. I was just or skateboard. This is simply just a name that I picked because it was fun to say, and now people think that my last name is Blades when it's not. But I'll take it. It's be a cool last name.
It is a cool last name.
It would be, yeah.
Well, guys,
Our
think
website too.
Yeah, our website is so you can.
killerblades.com.
I wish that'd be nice. I'm gonna look that up, see if it's taken. We are mchn.co/pages/strength. That's where you'll find machine strength. But if you go to mchn, which is just short for machine, mchn.co, you will find what we do there.
Cool. All right, guys, safe drive back today. Thank you again for making
Can I say
time.
one last thing for you? Yeah.
Whatever you
So,
need.
I'm very passionate about leadership, and I'm also very passionate about leaders meeting their own standard. And so, in the military, as in the first responder world, as we pick up rank and as we develop in our career, we tend to let go of certain things, and that is physical performance. But we got to continuously be an asset to our team and not a liability. And in order to do that with the things that we do, you have to maintain your physical fitness. So, leaders everywhere, especially if you're in a physical job or something that requires physical performance, set the standard for yourself as well. If not, have a higher standard for yourself, because then you'll have a lot more buy-in from your team, and it's a win-win situation because then you can retire healthy. So don't neglect your own performance.
Boom. Mic drop. All right, team, thank you very much. Appreciate your time
Thanks
and
so
everything
much.
you're doing for the industry and all the servicemen. So thanks for tuning in.